All right, everybody, welcome back. This is episode number 11 of the Good Old Hockey Podcast. Gally, we got some fun stuff ahead for us. I know as the month and the year is wrapping up, we got some busy times coming ahead, so we got some fun stuff planned just in terms of the episodes for the next couple weeks. Some future stuff for the new year. We're going to be working on some new things, so a lot of exciting stuff. For those of you listening, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy whatever you celebrate. And by the time this comes out, we'll have another one before the new year. But if you don't hear from us, Happy New Year to you as well. We'd have
take a shot for me too.
Up. Yeah, take a shot for us. Yeah, New Year's we can talk about that in the next episode. But we do have the Winter Classic that will be interesting to see with those two teams. But before we get into that, let's talk about our weekend. Gally and I, we hung out Friday and saw each other Saturday too. So let's see. Friday, we were going to do some stuff downtown and go do like man on the street stuff. We chickened out. It was also cold as shit. I didn't even think about that. Like that night when I got home, I was walking like from my car to the house, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be freezing. Like if we're standing out here talking to people. So didn't work out, but we had a successful night. We played some chow. I think I lost to you, but then I beat Cody. So
I got my ass kicked by Cody though. Cody whooped me. It was like 6-1 or some shit. Of course I scored the first goal too. I felt cocky for a second.
Yeah. You were the Flames, and he was the Knights, though. So there were some matchup irregularities.
That is true. Cody's I feel like for man on the street, yeah, he is a good player. But for man on the street, we gotta pop cherry, man. We gotta try this thing once, and I feel like once we do it once, we'll get a lot better. And I feel like we didn't get too drunk. Like, say if we went out, got drunk, and then I think we would have had the courage to do it. But we just didn't. We didn't take the step to go out. We just dialed back, played shell, got drunk.
Yeah, no, we did. And then Saturday, graduation day for a couple of our buddies. Shout out to Ryan, part of Settle Down. He graduated, so big props to him. And then went downtown. I saw you guys at Silly Birch. We were kind of hanging out. We had a table, which usually doesn't happen for me. Like, I feel like we never have enough people to have a full table, but we had a full table of people, so it was pretty cool. And then just bar hop the rest of the night. I think I finished the night off at Roddy's, which is never, it happens. When the lights come on, you've been out too long.
Yeah, when the lights come on at Roddy's, it's like, oh, fuck, dude, where am I right now?
Yeah.
Also, my Saturday night was so much fun, but also, fuck, dude, there's a big part of that night I can't recall, so maybe a little too fun for Saturday night, but
well, it was funny.
It put me in the dirt on Sunday, though.
Yeah. Same. I had to go into work on Sunday, and that was
fuck.
It was better than I thought it was going to be, but on Saturday, I could tell you were too drunk because I told you, I was like, hey, do you want to record on Tuesday? And you were like, yeah. And then you texted me. I don't know if you remember this at all, but you texted me and you were like, I don't know do you remember that? Me telling you about that?
Dude, I don't know. Now I got to pull up the text.
You texted me and I was just like, yeah, I'm down for that. It worked out perfect. But yeah.
No, I'm pulling this up. On Tuesday? What? What are you talking about?
I told you downtown on Saturday in Silly. I was like, are you down to record on Tuesday? And you were like, yeah. And then you texted me, I think it was yesterday or Sunday, asking if we wanted to record on Tuesday. And I was like, yeah. That's what I said.
My dumbass just forgot.
Yeah. But anyways, I had a fun time. Downtown's always fun.
Yeah.
Hit the bank account. Was a little too generous, but it's also grad weekend and had to take care of my graduating homies. So, but enough about that. We got some fun stuff ahead of that.
Dude,
But
before we get
go
into
ahead.
it, fucking, this is not this weekend, but it was today. I was so it like rained like
Yeah, I saw that.
super weird last night and like
Yeah.
creating an ice storm in Boise. And so like I don't know, I'm on my way to work. It's pretty early in the morning too. And I don't usually look down when I'm walking out of my door. I kind of
Yeah.
look to see what's outside. It's my first glance outside. So I walk out and I'm like, all right, it didn't snow. Let's go. I don't have to scrape my car. Then like 2 steps later, I fucking slip so hard. So like the ice storm last night like created a sheet of ice in my driveway, which is downhill
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Landed on my elbow. It was fucking brutal, bro. But
That
yeah, it
is
was a really
brutal.
shitty start to the morning today. But hey, it's Wednesday tomorrow. It's hump day, so let's get
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just
Go
wanted
ahead
to
and
add
get
that
some.
in.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No, that was good. Yeah. Go ahead. Take away with your. I'm gonna call it coast to coast for today. It's working title.
Yeah, working on this title still. Coast to coast. It's kind of a segment where we'll talk about kind of just current NHL news. And we haven't talked for about a week. So in the past week, first Jordan Kyrou. This guy is, longtime Blues player. Signed an extension, I want to say 2 years ago, for 8.1 million. I think it was a 6-year deal for 8.1 million a year. So he's been around the Blues since it's been a while, man. I want to say at least 5 years. But yeah, he got booed the night after Greg Berube got fired, supposedly because of some of the comments he said about their former coach. And supposedly he just said no comment, which I guess some Blues fans took arms at that. And this was the Blues coach who did take him to a cup. So it's like, it's obviously pretty meaningful for these fans for, a coach that won the franchise's first cup. But, I think it's ridiculous that these fans are booing him. He's only played for the Blues throughout, his whole career. He's been good. He's been a pretty consistent, almost point per game player. And I mean, this season he's got, I want to say 21 points in 30 games. So it's not like he's having that bad of a year, but like for your home crowd to boo you over no comment on a coach getting fired, which isn't Jordan Kyrou's option to do that. I think that's ridiculous. And I have some friends that are Blues fans and they're not going to be happy that I say this, but I mean, that's not a good look on the fan base.
No, not at all. Especially booing a player like that who's been a longtime player. And yeah, I mean, we've seen some stuff this year with that, like the Senators and Brady Tkachuk kind of said stuff about that, just like knock it off. Like, you guys are fans.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a level to it. Like, yeah, we are the fans. We have the right to boo you and be upset about something, but I don't know. I don't think they went about that the best way, but that's just what I think. He is getting paid a lot.
See, that's the thing where it's like, okay, he's getting paid $8 million a year. So it's like he should be producing, but there is way, way, way worse examples of overpayment in the league, aka Jonathan Huberdeau, who's on pace for like 30-something points, and he's getting paid $12 million almost. It's fucking bullshit. But even the Flames fans aren't booing Huberdeau, really. I mean, he's getting benched and whatnot. But I mean, here's the thing. Here's my take on booing and being an obnoxious fan is like, if you're doing it to your home players, there has to be something seriously, and I mean seriously wrong.
Yeah.
Not something this small. And it's so early in the season. I mean, shit, when the Blues won the Stanley Cup, their first half of their season was nothing pretty at all. No. So, I just think it's kind of premature for these fans to do it. He is getting paid a decent amount, but he's producing still. So, I just think that was a really immature fan base to do that.
Yeah.
But
No, it is.
like I said, there's way worse examples in the league for overpayment and players not stepping up, or even players doing the wrong thing. But yeah, that obviously ticked off some Blues fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, just going in segmenting to our next topic. So far this NHL season, decent amount of coaches have already got fired, and we're not even to the new year. We have 4 coaches so far that have been fired. So DJ, I'll just start off. I've already talked about one, Craig Berube. I don't know if I'm saying it is Berube or Berube.
I think it's Berube.
Yeah, Berube. So Craig Berube, he got fired. I want to say it was about 5-6 days ago. And then DJ Smith was a couple days ago for Ottawa. So both those coaches are out from St. Louis and Ottawa. I just think it's very interesting that a lot of teams are taking this approach of, early firings. I mean, the Oilers did it. Same with what's the other team? I want to say was it Chicago? I could be wrong.
No, I forget who it was. But I mean, I think for Ottawa, I saw something about their GM saying at the beginning of the season, just saying, "Hey, the rebuild is over. It's time to win." And they're not doing that. They're at the bottom of the Atlantic, just like the Titanic. And I don't know. I think
too soon.
Yeah.
Just like the Titanic submarine. That's too soon.
No, not that one. Not that one. I meant the actual Titanic. Not the submarine. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. We've seen some success out of Edmonton after that firing, and nothing crazy to point fingers and be like, yeah, this is how you have to do it. But I don't know. I mean, I think for Ottawa, just shaking something up, and usually the coach is first to go, and we've seen that this year. I think, yeah, again, the Blues just haven't had the start that they want to, which at the same time, I look at the roster and I'm not like, this is a championship contender team or a playoff team, like just a very middle of the pack. Maybe you're getting the 15th overall pick this year kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as far as the next coach this year, I think we'll see it again. I know you have on here Don Granato. I think if Buffalo doesn't pull something out, but I don't know that their rebuild is necessarily over. I think they have a lot of the tools. I just think a lot of their guys are young. And
yeah,
I don't know. I think they need another year, maybe. I mean, it would be awesome if they could make the playoffs this year. But again, that Atlantic division, we've talked about this all year, is a tough division. And if these coaches 100%. Can't get it done, you're just going to get on the chopping block.
So, I mean, I forgot to mention this, but Dean Evanson, we talked about this on our podcast. I don't know how I forgot this, but Minnesota Wild's head coach.
Oh, right.
And like you said, the Oilers turned it around. I think they went on a 7 or 8 game win streak after. The Wild are 7-3-0 in their last 10. So, I mean, something is obviously happening. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we do see another one of these firings. Don Granato, kind of segmenting to what this is all about is like, obviously there's a hot seat in the NHL this year. There's 4 coaches getting fired. So it's like, who's going to be next? I feel like there's some teams that, like the Sabres or the Kraken that have maybe showed either they have a good roster or showed that they can make the playoffs and make noise in the playoffs. That their coaches are on the hot seat, and like Don Granato is one of them, as well as Dave Haxtell. I mean, with Don Granato, like you said, they didn't say necessarily that their rebuild's done, but
not like the Ottawa Senators did. Yeah,
I feel like a lot of people had them projected to be a lot better than what they are this year. I mean, they're 7th in the Atlantic. They're 13-17-3. I mean, that's a big step down from, I want to say, last year. They barely missed the playoffs. So,
yeah, I think, I don't know. If a lot of these other teams are getting success from it, firing their coach like that and making the right moves, I think we could see another one. I mean, I don't know. It really depends on the rest of the year. I think if Buffalo continues to do bad into the All-Star break, then yeah, maybe. But even then, who knows? But go ahead and start your next segment before we get into our wish list from Santa Claus.
Yeah, 100%. Out of those two coaches, though, I would say Granado is probably going to get fired, though. I feel like Hackstall, they really like him, and he's just been good for the past couple of years, at least starting out as for a new team and whatnot. But yeah, my next segment, talking about Juuso Välimäki. I know, sure, a lot of people have heard this in the hockey world. So the NHL opened up an investigation, I think it was today or yesterday, on the mistreatment. They call it a mistreatment, which I think that's a very under exaggeration. For Arizona Coyotes defenseman Juuso Välimäki. So they were playing against the Stars. I want to say it was in November. He took a slap shot to the face, which no one likes to do that. Probably some of the worst pain he'll ever experience in his life. I'm sure I've never taken a slap shot to the face. It sounds like it would be horrifying. But either way, he broke his bone, lost a few teeth, had supposedly a huge hole in his face that was bleeding immensely. Oh. So, of course, he went straight from, I want to say it's American Airlines Center is what Dallas's arena is called, to the emergency room, to the hospital in Dallas. And he waited hours, supposedly, to see a doctor. His wife was there, and then a staff member of the Coyotes was there, too. But supposedly they were giving priority to gunshot victims, so they couldn't necessarily stitch him up. They told him to book a hotel and come back the next morning, which I think is crazy. And I want to say the NHL came out and said he potentially could have died if he did that, because he could have bled out. Yeah. Either way, I don't know necessarily these details of it, but Välimäki somehow got the NHLPA involved in it, arranged a surgery like 5 hours after it happened. So kind of just, I think he either skipped the hospital or the NHL went to the hospital and said, hey, you got to take care of this guy because he's an NHL player. I'm not totally sure that, but 5 hours later received 55 stitches, which is crazy.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, 55, which is like, damn, bro.
Yeah.
But then the best part about this story, and I'm not saying there's any good parts about the story. I think it's a horrible story. It is mistreatment of a player. It's severe mistreatment of a player. I can't even imagine the pain he was in. But 2 weeks later, he's showing up in a cage playing in the NHL again. So this guy is ultimate hockey guy. Juuso Välimäki. It was stupid the Flames gave him up. He's a first round pick back in, I think it was 2016 or 2017 for the Flames. But it's fucking ridiculous that happened in today's NHL world. But let alone, like, it's not a good look for the Dallas Stars. And I know a lot of people were saying, like, it's not the Stars' fault necessarily, which I don't think it is. But still, it's like, that is your home city. And it's like, you shouldn't ever leave, like, a player out of their arena that's basically stranded like that in an emergency room. So I don't know. What's your take on all
that? First of all, there's no other players in the world like hockey players, and I'll say that till the day I die. Football players may act tough; they get hit a lot, but you would never see any player come back like that. And it's not even. It's just like the amount of players that do that. Like, I'm not shocked that he came back in 2 weeks. Like, that happens all the time. Like, maybe not for that extent of injury, but even just like little things like, I mean, we saw Matthew Tkachuk over the playoffs be playing with a separated shoulder or whatever he had going on. Broken rib, where his brother had to get him out of bed for game 3 or 4 or game 4. We don't see that in any other sport, and that's why I love this sport of hockey. I think it's tough because it's like, as a human, how do you justify having him skip the line over people who are shot, like gunshot victims?
Yeah, and totally.
It's tough, but also Dallas probably doesn't do a very good job of keeping their city very safe, and they have a lot of violence like that. So
shots fired.
Yeah. Fuck you, Dallas. But yeah, like, no, for real. I mean, I think it's tough. Like, in a city like that where that stuff just does happen. And I don't know. I think it's tough to just push a player to the front of the line. I think the NHL needs to have their own way of doing it. I mean, it's just tough because it's like that kind of surgery is so rare. It's not like they can just have a doctor at hand that can help them in the arena. Like, they need to get serious medical attention. And I think that whole problem with him waiting that long is way out of my pay grade and what the issues are. That's all hospitals and all that stuff that we're not going to get into. But yeah,
100%. I feel like it shows the lack of just like, I don't even know, organization within the hospital system in a way too. Like, for that to be a thing, and doctors are, because I'm sure it didn't really come down to a doctor being a dickhead or anything. He's probably like, this is priority. These people are gonna die. You're probably not gonna die, but still. I just feel like if this happened to a fucking NFL player or an NBA player, this would be on all over the place on Sports Center.
Yeah, that is true.
Like, for a player to be waiting a few hours in the ER, I mean, I feel like it would get a lot more publicity from other leagues, but this went under the radar big time. I feel like it's not even top of the news for the NHL, but damn, dude, I'm glad he's good. I'm glad he was able to make a good recovery
and playing again.
Valimaki is, for right now, I'd probably say he might be hockey guy of the year for me this season. So far, that's pretty badass. He did that.
Yeah, we should do an award show at the end of the year for like some news stuff like that. Like, hockey guy goes to him, kind of thing. But all right, got the fun stuff here. So what we're gonna be doing for this episode around Christmas time, we're gonna be asking Gary Bettman for a wish list, almost like Santa Claus. All I want for Christmas, Gary Bettman, or what we want, is a few things. The first one on here, which I think every hockey fan has always talked about since they got rid of it, but that would be to bring NHL players back to the Olympics. Now, I know there's a lot of moving factors and parts that go into this, and the Olympics are right in the middle of the NHL season, and these owners don't want to risk their $8 to $10 to $1 million players getting injured at the Olympics and then ruining their season for the rest of the year. I get that. I do. But it's the Olympics, and I think representing your country is so much bigger than the NHL, and to have that experience for those players and also the fans and the sport of hockey too. Don't forget about that, owners. Like, think about TJ Oshie or Miracle on ice like that. I know for my dad, that's the reason he started watching hockey. Like, he didn't grow up in a place in San Jose where there was much hockey going on. He had always played like street hockey and stuff, but he never really got into it that much until he saw Miracle on Ice, and that happened. And I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people. It's a lot of players growing up back in the 2000s. Players that were alive at that point. But even kids like my age, like, Miracle came out when we were pretty young, and that was a huge movie.
Yeah,
and also 100%. PJ Oshie, all that stuff. I think the Olympics is good for hockey if the NHL players are in it. Okay, I kind of contradict myself. Miracle on Ice were all amateur hockey players, now that I'm thinking about it. But the chance that we're going to see that again, I don't know, is very high, especially with just the way the world was at that point. But
yeah, what I will say about that, like, I know back in the day they did a lot of Canada Cups, or where it was best v best, to at least show the Soviets what the NHL players could do. A lot of times it was close. A lot of times the NHL lost. Sometimes the NHL won. But yeah, I mean, Miracle Ice was such a good Kickstarter. I mean, 1998 was the first time they had NHL players, and I know I spieled about that in a previous podcast, but I think even for myself, I think I was 11 years old, just getting super into hockey, kind of developing, like, understanding what sports was and hockey was, especially. But yeah, the 2010 Olympics just, like, blew me away. Because Sidney Crosby was, like, such a badass, like 2007, 2008. He really got me into hockey, just his style of leadership, his style of play. He was just such a good fucking player off and on the ice. And for that final to be like that, I mean, obviously I was rooting for Team USA, and it was sweet when they tied it going into overtime.
Yeah.
But just to see like Canada getting a golden overtime goal from their poster boy Sidney Crosby in Canada too is like fucking unreal, dude.
Yeah.
It's so unreal. Or even, I mean, 2014 Olympics with TJ Oshie. I mean, think if that happened in the US. So I just feel like the NHL has missed out on both the 2018 and the 2022 Olympics, just making those lasting memories. And like, yeah, I totally agree. It does totally comes down to the NHL CBA, the ownership. But at the end of the day, I feel like sports is starting to move more towards like a players' league.
Yeah.
Especially you can see this in the NFL and the NBA, even in the MLB with fucking Shohei Ohtani. I mean,
Yeah.
recently, these players are starting to have a lot more independence, rather than owners kind of using them as pawns and like
Yeah.
pieces for
Yeah.
their own financial empire.
Mhm.
So I think the NHL is somewhat moving that way, not as drastically as other leagues, but like
No.
I really, really hope it gets more of a push, because I know there's a lot of players that are in the NHL currently that are like, we need to make this happen, or else I'm
Yeah.
never going to be able to play for my country.
Yeah. There'll be players that have that. I mean, when was the last time they were in the Olympics? 2014, Sochi?
Yeah, I mean, the last time it was a best v best tournament was
Oh, they had the
2016 with
20.
the World Cup of
Yeah.
Hockey, which
I'm
shit,
talking
that was still
Olympics though.
2016.
Crazy. They need to bring that back, if not the Olympics. I would like that. Also, Mr.
Yeah.
Bettman. So if you're listening, yeah, I think my final thought on the Olympics. I get it, owners. I do. I get your money, your championship team as a fan. If the Sharks were in, I don't know, better spot and they were like in playoff contention, and then well, we don't really have a star player right now, but if we had a star player, our star player, and he went down with an injury in the Olympics, I would kind of be a little upset as a fan. But at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't think I'd be that upset just because it's like, ah, well, it happened in the Olympics. Like, oh well. It only happens every 4
Yeah.
years. It's like it's a yearly thing where they need to miss half the season. Like, it's special, and fucking soccer does it for the World Cup. And
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
obviously, the World Cup is its own thing and it's huge, and soccer is its own sport. But still, like, I don't know. I think they can do something about it. So Gary, get on that shit. Do you have any last thoughts about the Olympics?
Yeah, man, I just like I said, just best v best, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's World Cup of Hockey, they just need to get some sort of tournament like that back, because and it has to be
Yeah,
consistent. Like I
yeah,
know the 2016 one happened because I think the CBA was up and they wanted to do one last one before um they couldn't
yeah,
necessarily.
yeah,
But I mean, shit, think back to that, dude. I mean, the under 23 North America was so dirty.
yeah.
But yeah,
Which
I remember, I think Crosby like came out and publicly said like he wanted to play with McDavid. Like I'd be stoked to see a
yeah,
McDavid
no,
and
that'd be so
Crosby
fun.
duo
Yeah,
in the Olympics,
yeah.
or see Eichel Kachuk or the Kachuk brothers play with each other. Like it would
And the
be
Hughes
so
brothers,
fucking
it would
cool.
be
Yeah,
like
and the
a
Hughes
whole line of
brothers.
brothers. We could have a whole line of brothers. We could have Brady at center, Kachuk on the wing, or you could switch out Hughes for the center. But then you got the two Hughes brother on defense, assuming this might be later down the line. But still, I think having just all that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I
I was
feel
gonna
like the
say, oh,
NHL. What? Go ahead.
the World Juniors is coming up. I think over New Year's Eve break, so we should watch that, follow that, and we can talk about that in an episode. We just
Yeah.
dedicate an episode to that because those are always fun, especially seeing some of those players that either A are going to get drafted or are already drafted and going to be stars in the league. Um, like I know Celebrini's playing. I know Will Smith for the Sharks is playing, and there's a bunch of Gabe Perreault, like all those guys that are going to be huge stars in the NHL. And that's where we saw. That's where I first really started hearing about Bedard being first overall pick was after that World Juniors that he had that he put up whatever he put up with that like record breaking um, year. But so we'll follow that
Yeah.
along.
Dude, World Juniors is the shit. Like I've always
Yeah.
watched it every year. NHL Network has all the games on
Yeah.
there. Um, like it's such a good time because it's all these younger players, but it's very similar to like Olympic hockey or even World
Yeah.
Championship hockey, where these players are, fighting for their country. I mean, playing for their country. So um, it's something I'm really looking forward to this year. I just wish they would get the Olympics back. But yeah, my final thought on that, I feel like the NHL and the Olympic Committee could figure out some sort of way to still make the NHL some money, whether
Yeah.
that's something with branding or some sort of payout for the NHL. But I think the main concern is the money, because I do feel like some of the ownership within the NHLs could be a little bit greedy at
Yeah.
times with their money, and not paying players and whatnot. So um, I do think that's like something they could maybe compromise on. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, enough about the Olympics. We'll move on to our next one, which is the mid-season tournament. And I don't know necessarily if this is on my wish list, but I've seen a lot of talk about this just
Yeah.
because the NBA did it. I thought it was kind of interesting how the NBA did it.
Yeah.
Um,
What was do you know, like, what's the outcome for the team that wins the midseason tournament? Is there anything?
yeah, they get money. I want to say it was like 500K each.
Okay.
And if the
Yeah, I don't.
NHL did that, I think players would go balls to the wall for 500K. I mean, most players.
Yeah, I think the tough thing about it, no disrespect to the NBA, but and the NBA is also tough, but I think the 82 game season for the NHL is a fucking drag, and if you have to put players through a midseason tournament, which would be just around, probably around this time, if not like January. But then you got All Star break. I don't know. I just, not that they wouldn't try, but we could see players get absolutely exhausted. And I've heard countless players talk about it, how long that season is, and especially at this point in the season right now when we're talking, this NHL season for them is exhausting. Like they're 30 games in. There's really not a whole lot of end in sight for them. It's not like they've got another couple months left. Like they got a long road ahead of them.
Yeah, there's no load management.
No, not really. And I don't think there should be. Like, I get that the NBA has to do it. They're all pussies, but I don't know. I don't see I don't know that it's on my wish list. Just because a money thing, it's like, yeah, cool, like players get paid a little bit more and maybe some national attention, just like TV wise, like maybe we can get some games on ESPN more than we already have. Um but I don't know. That
I
was a
think,
toss up.
yeah, I think what they could do with it is because I think throughout the NHL season they do give teams breaks. Yeah, the NHL 82 game season is just such a different thing compared to NBA. Like
Yeah.
you're so right on that, and it's just like throwing a mid-season tournament in there. I think it's near impossible.
Yeah.
If they figured out some fucking way to do it, I think it would be something cool. Like say if they did it January or kind of the time when the NHL is like more lacking, at least viewership and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because I feel
Maybe
like it
after.
kind of goes on a curve of like people watch it a lot at the beginning of the season, and then it dips down, kind of when like bowl season and Super Bowl, and then it ramps up a lot when the
Oh yeah.
playoffs push starts happening. So
Yeah,
like if
yeah.
they did find that sweet spot and could maybe incorporate something, that would be cool. But I think the first thing they would have to do with that is like try it out in the AHL, try it out in the ECHL,
Mm.
try it
Yeah.
out in these smaller leagues, and like maybe even experiment with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, because one, I feel like it would be kind of cool. It would add another trophy in hockey, which I don't know how many people would like that.
It's
But
also,
also,
I don't know, it's like for me, if I saw, oh, the New York Rangers won the midseason tournament, if I saw how many, like like for the Lakers, for example, like, are you going to look back on LeBron's legacy and be like, oh my
yeah,
God, he won the midseason tournament?
that's
Like
a good point.
what does that do? Nothing. He got an extra $500K. That guy, that is a penny to him. $500,000.
100%. No, I agree. I think it's kind of overhyped for the NBA. I just wanted to bring it up because, you know, obviously the NBA did do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say it's like it's impossible to do.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. So before we move into the next one, we kind of already talked about the international games, World Cup of Hockey. But I'm going to bring this one up because we can talk about it quickly. Gary Bettman, please bring an AHL team as the Idaho Steelheads, or just in Boise in general. It'd be fun for us as viewers. This is a personal pick to have an AHL team in Boise, but I think it'd be fun. I mean, obviously the Steelheads are fun to watch, and it doesn't make them any less fun that they're in the ECHL. But if we could witness some of the players in the AHL be playing for the Steelheads, I don't know. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I mean, just like a little bit of like history with this, there has been attempts for an AHL team to be here in Boise. I think the most recent one was Seattle, just because of proximity.
Yep.
You know, it's a quick flight. It's pretty quick drive too. And there has been, you know, attempts for the Steelheads to move up to the next league just because the fan base is good here. Had some success making the playoffs and winning Kelly Cups. So it's definitely in the works. The biggest thing, though, is the location. Like the stadium, where it is downtown. One, it's really hard to add on expansion stuff to that. Very costly because, I mean, you're going to have to shut down part of downtown. But then the arena is, you know, from 1996, 97. So
it's not the biggest arena either. I don't know what.
No, it's not. It's like 5,000 people. So
I don't know what a typical AHL stadium is like, but I don't know. It's definitely a personal pick. It would be fun, and I think we could see it in the future, especially if Salt Lake gets a team. That's an even quicker drive. It's a 5-minute drive. It's like a an hour flight to Salt Lake.
Yeah.
If that. So possibly we could see it in the future. But last topic on here before we wrap up our episode here, expansion to 34 teams. Now, I have heard some talks about this being a possibility in the future. And I think it's definitely is possible. Do I want to see it? Yes and no, because I don't know. Like, I think 32 teams is the most like any league has. Like, I think football has 32, right?
Football has 32, and I want to say the NBA has 32 too. It would be the first time a league does bring the 34.
Yeah.
I think it would be sweet though. I mean, I think they could add another Western Conference. They have to add another Eastern Conference too. I think it would be doable. But yeah, I mean, why not? Why not more teams? You know, I don't think the play of the NHL has gone down at all since they've added two teams. I think it's gone up, if anything. But it also just it kind of strengthens what hockey is, especially in the U.S. I mean, both those teams that have expanded in the past 10 years have been in the U.S. in markets that are not traditional hockey markets.
Oh yeah.
With that being said, like I think Houston could be one in the future that they expand to. Houston's just such a big metro. It's like, how can they not do that? But one of my personal like favorites for expansion is Quebec City. Like, I really think that would be sweet if they brought back the Nordiques. I do think that they have a pretty strong fan base up there. Quebec is huge hockey hotbed. So I mean, I just feel like that would be two teams like off the top of my dome. That would be very, very sick and pretty doable to do into the NHL. The one thing is, you know, Quebec City, one, they moved for financial problems, but also like their fan base does have trouble selling out their major junior teams sometimes, unless it's like the playoffs or Memorial Cup. But then Houston, their big problem is like supposedly the owner of the arena doesn't want an NHL team. Like, this has been brought up in the past, so I don't know if it will eventually happen, but I just know that expansion gets talked about a decent amount for us being at 32 teams already. So it's like, it makes me question, like, are they going to send it? are the Coyotes gonna send it into fucking Salt Lake City, relocate? But
Yeah.
it's very, very interesting. That's another thing too. Like it might just come down to like relocation rather than expansion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some relocation too. I mean, I would never want as a fan to have. I mean, I think Arizona's they in the past where they were at Glendale and Phoenix talked about this before, but it was just a bad spot. But what I've seen so far, that I mean, they've got another approval for a new stadium in Tempe. The Coyotes do, so I think they're good. I can't really think of a whole lot of other teams. Maybe the Jets. We'll talk about that in the next episode. Or I will. I have that down on one of the reasons. But I think my two teams, as much as I'd like to see the Thrashers back, I don't. The NHL has tried there twice. Both times have failed. Got your team in Calgary, one of them. Right? They were the Atlanta Flames, and now
they relocated up there.
Yeah, I think Atlanta would be cool if they could figure it out. I think it'd be a good new market for the NHL to test if that's what they want to do.
They've already tried though twice, I don't know, third time's a charm. I know Hartford is another city people throw around, the Whalers coming back.
I think more honestly, I would like to see Hartford have a team.
That would be sweet.
Over Atlanta. For the West side, personally it'd be cool.
What about Quebec City? You're just leaving Quebec City out of the picture?
I don't know. I've heard a lot about it, and like you said, with the fan base is strong, but they've had troubles before. I think it'd be cool for the East Coast. The reason I'm picking Hartford, I think in the Northeast, we've got Buffalo, we've got Boston, New York City, Long Island, New Jersey. It's 5 teams.
Yeah.
Anyone outside of that? I think like Connecticut's such a big hockey market.
Yeah.
And it's right across Hartford's not too far from New York City too. So it's all pretty close to each other.
Or Boston. I mean, it's pretty damn close to
too. Yeah.
It's pretty damn close to both of those cities, so
those uniforms are sick too.
Yeah, they're so sick, dude.
Yeah.
What a legendary logo.
Yeah. Disrespect to Carolina for wearing those jerseys. You don't deserve to wear them. You took that team away from their fan base, and now you're going to wear the jersey right in front of all of them. But
that'd be funny if the Jets did that with the Thrashers jerseys.
Yeah, like that just doesn't. You just don't do that. But it's a cool idea. Wrong team. But yeah, do you have anything to close out?
Episode? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit. I know we obviously talked about the World Cup of Hockey, but something personal for me. I mean, I would absolutely love to see an AHL team here. I just think it takes someone with money to throw in an new arena, whether that's expansion or a brand new one. Hopefully ICCU spends $200 million on a new arena, but something else that's probably like number one on my whole list. But it's not in the works for 5 to 10 years probably. But number one for me, or not number one, but another one for me was international games. I feel like we've started to see this in the preseason with like Australia, Germany, Sweden. I think those are really awesome locations, but like let's start like pushing it out a little bit more. Let's get a game in Mexico City. I know there's talks about Paris having a game. So like I feel like that's something like a way that hockey and the NHL could really like grow their outreach. I know they've done China before. Fuck it, do Japan, do South Korea, do India. I don't even know, dude. There's so many potential for. I mean, the world's the NHL's oyster, so it'd be cool to see the NHL do those games elsewhere and also make them regular season. I think that would be something that's worth watching. So,
yeah, I agree. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to this episode number 11. I hope you guys all have a great Christmas that are listening to this point. You guys are our rock stars. We love you guys. Let us know any of your guys' wish list on Gary Bettman, or your wish list for Gary Bettman. So throw that down in the comments on Instagram, wherever you're at. Let us know. But other than that, Gal, you have a great Christmas. And I will
You as
see you in
well.
the next episode.